US-backed forces in Syria have declared a victory over Islamic State in Raqqa. It's big news. The months-long battle ended with Syrian Democratic Forces raising flags over ISIL's last bastion in that city. Well, the American-backed militia claim that Raqqa is now fully under their control, but the caveat to this is the US-led coalition's less optimistic, saying the city's only been 90% cleared of ISIL.
We are aware of the reports that ISIS has been defeated in Raqqa. However, clearance operations continue, and we expect our Syrian Democratic Force partners to hit pockets of resistance as the final parts of the city is cleared.
The backstory here, just to recap for you, ISIL took Raqqa as its de facto capital in 2014, and the first major military offensive against the terrorists started 2 years after that. It was once Syria's sixth largest city, but now, after all this, it's been left shattered.
The UN estimates that an average of 27 people are being killed in Raqqa every day.
There is constant air raids from the coalition. So the civilian casualties are large, and there seems to be no real escape for these civilians.
The place bombed us heavily. This happened in downtown Mishleb and around. ISIL was slaughtering people. Many were killed and houses were destroyed.
Coalition shelling targets civilians. It hits civilians. Four-story houses full of people were bombed all over the neighborhood. Certainly, many have been killed. Among them, my cousin. He died in Raqqa in an airstrike.
This is a double-edged sword, this story. OK, ISIL out, but the international charity Save the Children is warning that a huge effort is still needed to end the humanitarian crisis there. The destruction you can see in the pictures here was caused by either ISIL and militia shelling or the US-led coalition's air support. With me now, delighted to say, Professor Lyle Sunga, who's a specialist on international human rights laws and who's worked at the UN on post-conflict recovery situations. As I say, it is a double-edged sword, as I was telling our viewers just then. OK, the scourge of ISIL may be out, but look at the death and destruction in having to do that, and now trying to pick up the pieces again. As it stands at the moment, how would you assess the success or otherwise of the operation to liberate Raqqa?
Well, I think strategically it's very, very important because we have to remember that ISIS had controlled an expansive territory with people of around 10 million in number, and from that territory and from the taxes or tributes that it could extract, basically through extortion, and by controlling oil resources and using the resources of the people in the area, was able to fund its activities. Now, having lost huge amount of territory and having Mosul and Raqqa almost fallen, that is a huge blow to its prestige, its legitimacy, its claim to legitimacy, rather. And that is certainly a major blow against ISIS. But I think you were really correct. Your reportage in the United States is also, cautioning correctly that ISIS may be down, but it's not out. And even militarily, there's going to be some mopping up operations, etc., that are necessary.
On the practical side of this, we'll talk about the humanitarian side. And on the practical side, Raqqa's largely in ruins. Who's going to rebuild this? Is the international community going to step in and restore it? Should they?
Well, it's going to be very difficult to rebuild and engage in full reconstruction when the Syria is still under huge civil war problems, and you can't rebuild while there's still war. So there will have to be a good political settlement and peace before you can actually start engaging in heavy-duty reconstruction. And it's going to have to be a huge collaborative effort on the part of the international community as a whole. And let's hope that the political will, which so far I haven't seen that, to engage in full reconstruction and rebuilding, comes about. Because, this kind of situation where you have countries and territories where there's very, very weak government, this is where terrorism thrives. This is where people say, well, what do I have to lose? I'll join one of these terrorist groups. Or, there's a lack of law and law enforcement, and that's how ISIS fighters and other terrorist groups thrive in these kind of fragile state situations.
No one ever said this was going to be easy, liberating this place, but it's come at a terrible humanitarian cost. Could it have been done any differently?
It's very easy for any of us outside the conflict and not on the front lines or not even in the command situation to second guess, and I wouldn't go down that road myself. It's a tragic situation, but war is tragic. And, certainly one can say that humanitarian corridors could have perhaps been better negotiated. And, but as I say, it's very easy to second guess sitting, in a chair someplace. It's a difficult thing to actually carry out as a military commander.
Yeah.
And as a matter of,